they're both incredibly loud. Both great amps, but quite different, aren't they? That's that chime, isn't it? You can hear that chime. You need to crank this to about 7 or 8 to get it to start breaking up. The massive difference between the Vox and the Fender here is that the Vox it's got a master volume. And like all Voxes, it's incredibly loud. Drive pedals and Voxes do not go together especially well. Should we try another guitar? The Vox is gnarly, beautiful, and together, what a team! Hello, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Guitaristas. So this week I've moved to the downstairs studio because there's a heatwave in the UK. We don't have aircon and it's a little bit cooler down here. Plus, I've got loads of amps down here and I thought we'd spend a few weeks escaping the heat and mucking around with them. Because we don't really get a chance to do that very often, do we? I use this amp here. One of the amps I'm going to play with this week, funnily enough, is in fact the Princeton 65. Which I use all the time. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to, well, I suppose show you why I use it all the time, and I also want to compare it this week with this one here, the Vox AC15, which was probably one of my favourite amps until I got the Princeton. I'm not really comparing, to be honest with you, I'm just going to show you what they both sound like and how different they are. And I think, notably, what I said just now is that I use the Princeton because I don't think it colours the sound of a guitar, whereas Vox amps, I sort of see them as more of an instrument in their own right, if that makes any sense to you. They do have a very distinct sound, and a lot of tube amps do have a very distinct sound. As you know, I'm sure you know that. I'm going to demonstrate what I mean. Okay, let's first off listen to the Princeton. Now this has got loads of clean headroom. This is what it sounds like without any attenuation on it. It's loud and clean, loud and clean. Not much breakup on there, so great for pedals. You know, if you want to drive that now without an attenuator, you're gonna have to use pedals. But that's about as loud as you can go without, you know, in a home setting, or in a studio setting, without hurting your ears. I suppose if you're gigging, you could crank it a little bit, probably. You need to crank this to about 7 or 8 to get it to start breaking up. So that's why I use the attenuator all the time, because I like it to break up a little bit, and I'll show you what that sounds like. I use the aux because it was very expensive and because it's very versatile. It's got level settings, so you can, you know, it's quite you could really have a cranked amp through that, turn it right down. And you can use this with different impedance, 4, 8 and 16 ohms. It's switchable, so. Whereas most others are just kind of only one impedance, I think, aren't they? Anyway, so, obviously I've been using this, so I know that I can crank it to about 8, 7 or 8 I normally have it on. About 7 I think. And its loudest, it's now I can bear that down here, but upstairs that's too loud. It just shows you the different acoustics. That's showing about 95 dB. It's breaking up now, isn't it? As you can hear, and that's on 7. So it's a little bit more versatile, because you can clean it up by using the volume knobs. And get a nice crunch. And obviously that depends a lot on the pickups now, how hard the guitar's pushing the amp. So that's kind of the sweet spot which I use for all my guitar demos now. So just to recap, this amp really clean at normal levels. You can't, well, I can't crank it enough upstairs to get it to break up to the point where I can do something with it, if you know what I mean. So attenuator required, but brilliant platform for pedals. Now, let's have a listen to the AC15. Easy, because I've already got it plumbed in. I've got my orange amp detonator amp switcher. So here you go. Right, this is a Vox AC15. Now I'm in the normal input. It's got 2 inputs, this. It's got a top boost channel and a normal channel. The normal channel is -6 dB, okay? So what they say in the instructions is if you've got a guitar with particularly powerful pickups, you know, you can put it in a normal channel, it'll give it a little bit of a cut. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? So I'm in the normal to start with. The massive difference between the Vox and the Fender here is that the Vox it's got a master volume. So it's got 2 channels, both with independent volumes, which affect the preamp gain, and then it's got a master volume there. And like all Voxes, it's incredibly loud. I mean, this is 15 watts. The Fender's 12 watts, I think. They're both incredibly loud. You could gig with either of these all day long and all night long. So I'm going to start with it. The volume. Go, what, 95 dB already. You can hear what I mean straight away about the colour in that. It's very different. And you don't need an attenuator because you can turn the master volume down, crank the normal, dirty, isn't it? Let's try the top boost. So you can have it nice and clean. That's that chime, isn't it? You can hear that chime. It's unmistakable. And then you crank it. Where are we? Here we go. Get the idea, I think. Well, that's loud. So I suppose that's an example. I mean, there's lots of people that have used Vox amps to get quite a distinctive sound, isn't there, out of their guitars, using treble boosters and the like. What I used to use live was a Vox, so I had that chimey, that, and the Fender. I actually, when I was playing live, I used an AC30 and a Blues Deluxe reissue, which is, I suppose, like a bigger version of this. There's loads of people who probably tell me it's a completely different circuit, but, you know, it's a real nice, clean Fender amp. And what you can do with these pedals is you can have them both. You can have the Fender and the Vox together. That's what you get. try Les Paul. This has got that real Les Paul woodenness, this one. Turn it up now. My ears are adjusting. Together, wow. And what I used to do live was I would split the pedals, some of my drive pedals. I didn't have what people call a wet dry. This is a wet wet. They both got reverb on. I would just have the drive pedals on the Fender. So you know, I would route it's easy enough to do. If you get a splitter like this is the amp detonator. It's an orange pedal. Amp detonator. I'll put a picture or a link or something so that you can see what it is. The great thing about this is it's got a phase. What's it got? I can't remember now. It's isolated, obviously, because you power it from your board, and it's got a phase lift. So if you know, because sometimes if you pair amps, they're out of phase. It's got a phase switch, so you can correct that if there's an issue. But what I was saying was easy enough. You can put a drive pedal after as it comes out of the splitter, the detonator. You can then add a drive pedal there. So there's all sorts of ways you can be creative and route it. It was quite fun actually to get it right. Because the other thing about Vox, I'm not going to be able to show you now because I don't think he's loud enough. But the problem I have in the band with an AC30 is when you've got them cranked quite a bit, there's no headroom left on the Vox, and drive pedals and Voxes do not go together especially well at higher volumes. I can't demonstrate that here now because the volume's not high enough, but take my word for it, there aren't many drive pedals that go well with a cranked Vox, but then it's got a wonderful crankiness to it already with the top boost, isn't it? So which one is it? Should we try another guitar? Single coil, oh, I was going to say coils, coil. So while we're having a listen, let's look at some specs and some sexy pictures. The Princeton 65, assume this is based on a 1965 model. This is a Tweed limited edition version. This is the 12-inch speaker. It's an Eminence speaker in this. I think this was a Sweetwater exclusive. They're still selling them for $1,400. I did manage to find one in the UK somehow or other. I paid £1,350 for it. Don't seem to be any left over here at the moment. But the 10-inch speaker version is available. It's really expensive still. It's like £1,250 in the UK, $1,400 in the States. So this is the AC15, of course. Introduced in 1958, this. This version's the 1 by 12-inch speaker. This is the greenback. They also do it with an Alnico blue. This is the cheaper one, a lot cheaper than the Fender. This comes in the States around about $800 US, about 650 quid in the UK. This weighs 48 pounds and 15 watts, obviously. Both sound, to my ears here, sounds great. So that Vox has really got that colour to it. Fender's got colour to it, cranked that much. It's found its way up to about 7.5 now. You can hear actually how the rat is being suppressed a little bit on the Vox. Here it is with the rat. It's quite thin. And the Fender. Bit. Anyway, turn the Vox up and it kind of disappears. You kind of step on a boost pedal expecting a boost and it just doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, Fender, for if you use pedals, Fender. If you want to sculpt, look at me, a creative sound, Vox, it's got a bit of, it's both, isn't it? It's both. Because if you split that and put the drive just on the Fender, it sounds immense. I can't get that. He uses a harmony, I think, doesn't he? That's it, isn't it? There you go. 3 guitars I played today. I just noticed dust on this one. So it's nice to get a chance to play some stuff that it gathers dust. I get a guitar, I review it, I put it on a stand, or I don't keep them in their cases. I leave them all out on display. So they do tend to gather dust. I do take them home and play them on rotation, but I've got about 6 guitars at home at any one time out of a collection. What is it now? I've lost count. We'll have to have a tally up soon. It's about 60, 65 probably at the moment. We'll have to do something soon and find out. But yeah, this is, well, look, 3 guitars today. You're familiar with them all probably because They do get an outing on the channel. This one hasn't been out for about, probably, I'm going to say about a year probably. But the Eastman Juliet, I really rate that guitar. It's one of my favourites. That's been out fairly recently, I think. And of course the Tokai Love Rock. Which was your favourite today? Which was your favourite? And not that it is important, but can you guess which one I'm going to do the play out jam on? It doesn't mean it's my favourite or anything, but can you guess? Yeah, little competition, just for fun. Anyway, back to the amps. So there you go. That was a Vox AC15 and a Princeton 65. Both great amps, but quite different, aren't they? Quite different. Can you see what I mean, you know, about the Vox as a certain... It's got a really strong flavour to it, actually, hasn't it? Whereas the Fender, I suppose you can also say that it's got a strong flavour, but that's a very Fendery. It's a Fendery. It's a word I made up the other week. It's a very Fendery flavour, isn't it? It's everything but clean. The Vox is gnarly, beautiful, and together, what a team! Yeah, that's my rig. And of course, I'm not an expert. I'm just an amateur. Look, it's the same as you. All I'm doing is just fiddling around with some knobs, and when I hear something I like, I go, well, that's good, isn't it? So I'm sure they're both capable of doing far more than I've demonstrated today. But, you know, a layman's demonstration, comparison, whatever you want to call it, that's what we did today. So I hope it was enjoyable. It's been nice being down here to muck around, to start mucking around with some amps. I'm going to stay down here for a few weeks and go through some of these. Next week, I don't know which. I think I might dig the Blues Breaker out. Or say dig it out, just pull it forward a bit because it's quite heavy. You need a crew in if you're going to move that. But I've got a Blues Breaker. I've got a Super Reverb upstairs. I'll have to bring that down. I definitely want to crank that up because I haven't tried either of those with this aux yet. So yeah, that's my plan. I think in the next couple of weeks, what I'm going to do is stay down here for a few weeks. Although the heat wave that I mentioned at the beginning is over now. That was Monday, I think, or Tuesday. Monday I recorded that. It's Thursday now. It's gone. Winter's on its way. But it's nice down here anyway. It's good to get a chance to use this studio. So here we are. There you go. That was this week. Thanks for watching. And come back next week here, same time, same place, and find out, well, yeah, find out what it is. Look forward to seeing you then. Cheers for now. Ta-da.